Welcome back to another episode of 15 Good Minutes. We got a good topic today. Earlier this week, I thought some significant trades happened in the NFL. I want to talk to you about that. Before we get started, though, I just want to kind of, thank the viewers, the audience. Last week's topic it just blew up. And that's not any other way to say it. Freddie and I looked at it, and the number of views that we got was insane. In fact, I haven't looked at it today. I said I'm gonna wait till we start recording and see at the point in time that we're recording what it said. And it says 12,104 views. So thanks to all y'all. And it's still growing. By the way, there's also 104 comments. The last time I got in to work the comments, we were at 80. I will get in to work those next 24 or 25. If you haven't watched it, I'll put a link to it up top. But in essence, all Freddie and I did was kind of review an article that ESPN wrote about whether or not Bronny James is NBA worthy. And what y'all had to say in the comments was lit. I got people sending texts to my right. Yeah, text to my phone. I think you're right. I mean, it was a whale of a show, and I just wanted to start off by saying, that was the biggest. We're just finishing season 8 here. We started in 2016. And that was the single biggest show we had. So to all you that helped make that happen, I just want to say thanks. Really do appreciate you guys. So on to this week, or earlier this week, Freddie, what I wanted to talk about was 2 significant trades, and they both impact the AFC East. So I'm going to start with the one that I think is getting a little more buzz than the other, but I think they're equally as important. And Davante Adams is now going to the Jets. And I think we kind of saw it coming, right? We kind of figured that this was going to be something that happened in terms of, from at least what I've seen, Aaron Rodgers. I want to say he recruiting for him, but advocating on his behalf. So I do have an opinion, but I want to open with you as a resident NFL expert. What are your thoughts on the trade? And give me a grade. In other words, I want a grade for Vegas, and I want a grade for the Jets. And then your thoughts when it comes to Adams from Las Vegas to the Jets. What do you got?
I think it was a foregone conclusion when the head coach a couple of weeks ago made the comment that guys are making business decisions, right? And since then, Adams has been out with a hamstring injury. Okay. He's going to play on Sunday, right? So I think I give the trade, to be honest with you, for both teams, an incomplete. I give the trade an incomplete because we don't know what's going to happen. Obviously, of course, if the Jets make it to the Super Bowl and win, then of course it's an 8. But right now, there's a lot of football left to be played, right? There's a lot of football left to be played, and we really don't know. He could get hurt. Rodgers could get hurt. Anything can happen, right? And then you have teams like Kansas City, Buffalo, Baltimore. Those teams are not going to just lie down just because, you got, Davante Adams. As for Vegas, I give it an incomplete because now you're going to draft a quarterback next year. If I'm Shador, do I really want to go play for Vegas now without Davante Adams? You have nothing to entice a free agent quarterback or a free agent wide receiver.
I'll start in the reverse order then. I'll start with Vegas. I think it's a win for Vegas. If I had to give him a grade, I would give him an A simply because you dumped the $36 million contract to somebody you were going to lose next year anyway. To your earlier point, I think the injury that he's been dealing with is not really an injury. He was unhappy. They were unhappy. Whether or not they're gonna dump the coach is to be seen. But at the end of the day, I didn't think that particular marriage was working. So strictly from if you have this, to your point, this great offensive weapon and he's not playing for you, you really don't have the weapon. Secondly, I would say this: Shedeur Sanders has absolutely no choice in where he goes. He's going to be like any other rookie. If you look at the kid that we just talked about recently, from Carolina that finally started for New England. Drake, right. So when he gets to a point where he can command the team, that would be of concern. But right now it wouldn't be. It would be more of a concern for an established quarterback, in my opinion, who was considering going there. But a kid coming out of college, no matter who his father is just going to be really glad to be in the NFL so they can prove their worth and then get the follow-on contract. So if Sanders ends up going to Vegas, I don't see that. To your point, that to me would be incomplete because I do think the kid's a stud and I think Vegas has some things to work. But if I limit my comments to just this particular trade, I think Vegas wins. When it comes to the Jets, I'm going to tell you what Vern said, and I never thought about it this way, but he gave me two grades. He says it was a tactical win. It was a tactical win for the Jets because basically they're doing what Aaron wants to do, and more to the point, at least it seems like up until now, Aaron's been throwing everybody under the bus for all their inadequacies. Okay, you finally got your guy. When will you take ownership? But from an objective position, he said he didn't think it would be an A because Adams is 32. How many 32-year-old skilled position players get better with age? And, I asked him too, okay, do you see this being a help? And he said he did. It would help the Jets some. But to your point, you have a pretty stacked AFC East, and none of those cats are going to lay down. And so at this point, if I had to give it a grade, I would probably say a B, Freddie, only because I don't know if that's enough. I've watched the Jets probably more this season than any other. I don't know if Davante is going to be the answer.
It's an A for the NFL.
Okay.
Because the Jets have the most primetime games this season. I think 6 or 7. So it's an A for the NFL.
Adams' contract, as well as Rodgers, both ends next season. I think, tell me if you agree with this, if I'm Woody, I'm not paying Adams if Rodgers isn't there. I'm not giving $36 million and then have an unknown quarterback. If Rodgers decides to stay, to your point about all these other guys that are going to be looking to get paid, if you're Woody, do you give them a package deal? And if so, for how long?
Before they pulled the trigger on the deal, to be honest with you, Rodgers and Woody, I think they had a gentleman's agreement, in place, regardless of what happens, right? We're going to run it back.
Okay. On the same day, Buffalo picks up Amari Cooper. I'm not so much interested, right or wrong, in the grade for Cleveland. I kind of think Cleveland's a train wreck right now. But if you look at Buffalo, this gives Josh, to me, a 1 and may be a shot in the arm, as it were, for Cooper, who's just been kind of waiting for something to happen. When you look at this trade of Amari going to Buffalo, what do you think the impact would be? As in, will it be immediate? And then give me a grade.
It would be an immediate impact. Obviously, the rookie Keon Coleman, he's kind of slow with he's shown some flashes, but he's not quite there. Shakir, I forget the other, guy, the slot receiver. I think he's from Boise State, and then you can't throw the tight ends all day, every day. This is not Gronk or Tony Gonzalez. He's not as talented as Stephon Diggs, but he's not the headache.
I'm going to give Buffalo a strong B. I have to assume, at least right now anyway, that, Amari doesn't get hurt. But to your point, he's going to at least provide some relief, in terms of how the defenses have to cover them. And so far this season, to your other point, I haven't seen Josh going off like in Josh fashion as he has in past years, just kind of cutting and running. I would like to think, to your point, nope, he's not a Diggs. But two, if he can stay healthy and at least force a change in defense and have a legitimate option, left or right, or however the lineup goes, I think it makes them better. It's way too early. I mean, I'm not even prepared to have the conversation about how the whole AFC East is going to shape up and AFC in general, because there's a ton of talent. And to your other point, there's a lot of football to be played. But I don't think Buffalo gave up a lot, to get him. And they got somebody, to your other point, too, that I think is important. Somebody's going to help that locker room, that wideout room right away. Someone who's been around. When I looked at his numbers earlier today, he was solid with the Cowboys. He was. I don't know if it was a money thing or between him and Jerry about whatever happened, but since he's gone to Cleveland, it's been kind of an abyss for him, from a career perspective, right? I think you're also right. I do believe Adams is going to be suited up this weekend, right? All this stuff about the hammy. I think the hammy's been fine. I just think this is what he and the Raiders agreed on when he basically said, I want out. So I want to give both of them, both those teams, a couple of weeks. I'll come back to you and we'll revisit, maybe in 2 or 3 games, how it's working for each one. Not as a competition of any kind, but just to see, before the trade deadline, which I think is the first week in November. These to me were the most significant trades that I've seen in the NFL in season in quite a while. So we'll see how that shapes up. So again, let me turn to Freddie before we chirp out and see if Freddie got something to say as we do every week. Freddie, you got anything to say today?
Nothing today.
All right,
I felt
cool.
like I had something, but it kind of
it's like it was right there.
Yeah.
All right, cool. I got a couple things to say. One of them is a shout out. I'll try to put the link on here. There's an organization called Uncommon Grit. The website is uncommongritfoundation.org. I had the pleasure of participating in a charity golf event with them yesterday to provide support to the families of fallen Navy SEALs. And if you guys are unaware of what that life is like, I urge you to look it up. It was an amazing event. We raised a ton of money. And this particular organization, Uncommon Grit, doesn't just support Navy and Navy SEALs. The same with the families of fallen police officers, law enforcement officials, firefighters, etc. It's a really wonderful organization. I am a member of it, and the things that they do. So please, if you get an opportunity, check them out. Shout out number 2, as I indicated at the top of the show, we're winding up season 8. And with that, 1/3 of our team is pivoting to do some other stuff now. You may not have seen JR in a while. He's working on a couple of other 3 priorities in his life right now. We wanted to take a moment just to say, thanks, JR, for all that you did for the show the last 3 years. You guys will see him pop in occasionally now and again as a guest host, but in the form of a tease, as this is the end of season 8 when we start season 9 next week. We've got 2 people replacing JR. That's just how bad he was. So make sure you tune in next week. We got a 4-man crew rocking, and I'm not going to say anything more about it. You have to come in next week to see that. And then, as I said earlier, again, shout out to everybody who watched last week's episode, but I want to give a particular thanks to a guy with the handle Piano Man. Piano Man knows who he is. He's an old friend of mine from years ago that I haven't seen Freddie in years, since he left the DMV and moved to California. For whatever reason, and I want to thank YouTube as well, because YouTube has been taking last week's episode and just pumping it out to people it normally hasn't. And Piano Man is one such person. For whatever reason, our show was put on his feed. Not only did he watch the show, he had a ton to say about the whole Bronny situation. And it was really just good to catch up with him over a YouTube post that we did, and we haven't seen him in years. So special shout out to you, my friend. Thank you for the sub, and everyone else who's subbed. We have picked up more subscribers in 3 or 4 days than we have in a while, and it's only because we're grateful for you guys. So my last I got something to say is thanks to everybody who watched last week's episode. We hope you guys stick around. We got more good stuff to talk about. Until then, I would suggest tune in next week for the first episode of season 9. See who the other 2 squares on the screen are going to be. And until then, have a good weekend. We'll talk to you guys later.